Welcome back, everybody. We are here for another episode of Comeback Stories. And today's guest was born with no legs and was in 8 foster care homes for the first 17 years of his life. During that time, he suffered physical abuse, mental abuse, and starvation. But today, he's an All-American athlete, actor, musician, a Guinness World Record holder, motivational speaker, entertainer, motivator, and so much more. Zion Clark, welcome to the show.
What's up? What's up, man?
Standing.
Glad to have you, man.
Yeah, it's good to be here. I think this is my 3rd time in Vegas, so it's pretty cool to be out here. Every time I drive through, it's like I see something different.
It's an interesting place.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna end up being here a lot more, honestly. I don't gamble though, so
Don't waste your
which
time.
is crazy. You would think I go to Vegas, go gambling.
Yeah, bro.
I've never gambled in Vegas.
People just out here donating money. That's why we ain't got no income tax out here, because people just donating money into the slot machine. Like.
I know, right?
Hey, we like to dive right in. Can you tell us what growing up for you was like?
Growing up was rough. I'm not gonna I don't like digging into like real crappy details, but all in all, in the foster care system, there's a lot of abuse and there's a lot of mistreatment to a lot of these kids that get abused, and I was one of them. I started right off rip, being born. Second I was born, coming out of the hospital, I went to my first home, and after that, just traveled all over the state of Ohio, all over parts of New York, all the way back to Ohio to Pennsylvania. And it was each family was different. And when it came to the hardships, I was different. And being different isn't something that you should look down upon. But in my case, it was always looked down upon because I was the only person like myself in my city. At that, there's only one out of every 300,000 kids are born with my condition each year, so that's not a lot of kids. So with that being said, growing up was rough. I got bullied a lot too, and in and out of school, and I learned how to fight though, along the way, and I've been doing that. And sports opened up kind of gave me sentimental peace as a kid, because I started when I was young. I started wrestling and stuff when I was 5 years old. So with that being said, it's been kind of like therapy. So whenever there was anything bad, I got to go to the mat and blow off steam. And then as I've gotten older, it's kind of like I need to be training, or I need to be doing something active just so I have peace of mind. And it works. And that's what's really kept everything together.
Can you explain to maybe someone that doesn't know your the syndrome is called caudal regression syndrome?
Yeah, it's called caudal regression syndrome. And it's it varies from person to person for whatever, whatever level of severity that you have for this condition. In my case, I don't have legs. For some people, they have more parts of their spine missing, or they might have their full spine, and they might just have the tiniest piece missing, and that's all it is, and it doesn't do any damage or any harm, but still they have the condition. So it's it goes from a level of just not very severe to real severe, which would be, I guess, one of my cases.
What's it caused from?
In my case, my birth mother did a lot of drugs. So I was what you call a crack baby, pretty much. So I had every party drug known to man in my system when I was born. So I was more prone. I'm more prone to get addicted to a certain type of drug. Say I did something really hard, and I would have a higher chance of being addicted just because I was born with it in my system. So that's what caused my disability. But it can happen from any different ways. That's what makes it rare. You never know exactly what it's caused by every time.
We come from a world of addiction. Darren and I have both been sober for quite a while, and so this obviously hits home for sure. What was it like? What's the relationship? Obviously, if you're in foster care homes, was when you came out and had those party drugs in your system, is that when you were essentially taken from your mom?
Yeah, right off rip. I was the second I was born, I was placed into foster care custody because she wasn't suitable to take care of me, because she was on drugs when I was born. So yeah.
You didn't mention anything when we talked about your childhood growing up. The obvious is you don't have legs, but what was that like? And I mean, you can go there a little bit. This is comeback stories, and I think we asked that question first because it helps shape and connect the dots for why you do what you do and why and who you are today.
Just like how most people have legs. Growing up, like the way I did, like I just didn't have them. You know, I saw other kids. I would see other kids running around or riding bikes, and so like I would struggle a lot, but like I would figure it out. You know, I figured out how to walk on my hands by myself. I figured out how to ride a bike by myself. You know, took me a long time. Took me a long time to figure out balance. It took me a long time to like get to the level where I'm at now, where I can pretty much move however I want to. But like as a kid, yeah, it was tough. You know, I was vastly different. I had to move differently. I had to think like from a perspective of looking up at everything. You know, that's my childhood. And if that makes sense, like imagine like you're like this kid, like this small as a kid, and you're just like looking up. Like the world's huge. Like when you're that small, so you gotta learn how to handle yourself, and you gotta learn how to move around. But like at the same time, just how I figured it out, what's the difference? If you took out the fact that I don't have legs, what's the difference between you figuring it out and me figuring it out? It's not really any difference.
I feel like arriving at that perspective probably wasn't the easiest thing to do when I'm sure there were not only people, but things around you that probably remind you of what you can't do. Who was somebody that early on helped you shape your perspective in a positive way to help you start to form a vision for your life?
Definitely my coach that I had growing up through the wrestling program. Him and his whole family, actually. They're a family of wrestlers. Some of the most elite people I know, honestly. And they taught me everything I know in the sport and taught me a lot of patience. And I used to get frustrated, like real like upset. And I'd be like punching the mat, punching the ground, like just because I would lose or if I just had my ass handed to me. You know, that's how I used to, like, I used to just not have any control. And the biggest thing for me is having like sense of stability, balance, and like mental fortitude. And wrestling really helped build that for me. Well, my coach helped build that for me because he would push my buttons and push my limits. And once I would be in that state where I'm just like off the rails, that he would help me rein it in and control it. And if that's like same, like I can feel those ways and like feel certain impulses, but like there's a difference between feeling them and acting on them. And he taught me, like, wrestling really taught me that difference. And he was a real big role model for me in that. Because I used to just, like, I grew up in the hood a little bit coming up. And I got this nasty thing about me when I was young. I would, like, if you made me mad, I'd punch you straight in the mouth without even saying a word. Just if I didn't like how you were talking to me, I didn't want, like, you weren't getting out my face, I would just either headbutt you or I'd punch you straight in your mouth. And I just used to be like a wild cannon. And I'm like, and the reason that I fight now is because like having moments like those, like learning from like being all the way back there, and now it's looking at myself as a professional fighter and all as a professional athlete in general. It's like, wow, don't even recognize that person. And I really credit that fortitude to that man because I didn't have a father growing up, and I kind of looked at him as that father figure.
It sounds like. I'll circle back to a question I want to ask you, but a lot of the aggression comes from pain, right? And punching someone in the mouth without even like thinking about it it's like a reaction, right? And the wrestling sounds so therapeutic because it's controlled aggression, where you have to actually kind of manage it, but you're also able to use it as an outlet and move some of that energy and move through some of the shit that the repressed pain and all of the stuff that I can imagine that you went through in your younger years, but. Can you remember, like, what was, like, a real early memory of pain that you had?
Shoot. Like, what kind of pain? Because I vividly remember crashing my own teeth in with a metal baseball bat by accident as a kid.
Oof. I'm talking more emotional pain. More emotional pain? Yeah, okay. Like, yeah.
I don't want to go into it because I don't like to talk about it, but it would be getting removed from my first home. I remember it vividly.
How old were you?
I was like 3.
It's probably a gift that you do remember it, because my understanding is a lot of the things that we don't remember, where I'll just be having a conversation or coaching someone, and or even in therapy, they'll be like, I don't remember my childhood. And oftentimes that's the brain's way of blocking out some of the pain. It's a way of like protecting.
Yeah.
The fact that you remember it in the beginning, it probably wasn't a gift, and today it is. And I think one of your other gifts, and I want to bring Darren in on this, because if you don't know Darren's story, Darren's core wound is being different. And I'll let him share a little bit more about that, because you said the word different a bunch growing up, right? That's who you were. You just,
I mean, I didn't say it necessarily, but I just didn't care. You know, if somebody like were pointing and looking and like saying like, Mom, that guy has no legs. Like as a kid, I would get upset, but like I wouldn't go be like going crazy about it. You know, it was more of just okay, cool. You're a kid. Like the way I saw it, you're a kid. I'm a kid. You got a problem with me? Leave me alone. You know, like, and I've always been like that. It's just people who wanted to always press buttons. So then people started getting hurt. And either I would get beat up or somebody else would get beat up. You know, and like that's the type of reality I lived in. Yeah. So you had to build this, like, I don't care attitude, but like you can't, like, you had to build this like thing about yourself where you can hear what they're saying. But are you going to absorb it? Like, yeah, no. Like, you don't want to absorb that type of energy from people.
Right. So it's almost like a balance of what you should and shouldn't give a fuck about.
Yeah.
Like it's you never like, I don't give a fuck about anything. Then it's like you just out here kind of living reckless and like,
yeah,
you don't really have any kind of parameters.
It's like the balance between like giving a damn about this topic, but like at the same time, like not having a carefree attitude going into it. So going in, don't come in with huge expectations. Have big goals, but don't come in expecting to like be like top dog right off rip, because it don't work like that. You know, so just come in with like a peaceful, calm attitude, carefree, but also have shit that you do care about and balance it out. Like me, I do a lot of cool things, and I like doing a lot of cool things for other people too. But at the same time, like I take care of myself, and I don't like people. And that's so crazy I'm saying that, but I'm just being real. I don't necessarily like being around a lot of people all the time. You know, but at the same time, I inspire a lot of people, and I love putting my messages out there. You know, because there's a lot of life and a lot of truth into what I'm saying, and I hope people really jump onto what I gotta say. But at the same time, I like to just do that and play my Xbox. You feel?
I feel that tug of war for sure, because I mean, growing up, I was very insecure in myself, and just I felt like I found like some safeness in just isolation.
Yeah, you know, it's so crazy because there's this saying: if you can feel comfortable by yourself, when someone else comes into your life, like it helps creating that boundary of you're not gonna be codependent on that person. You know what I mean? Because the best people that stay together, whether it's relationships or like groups of people or a team, are the people that aren't just like solely dependent on somebody for a certain aspect in their life. If you can have a self sense of freedom, then you can live on a broader spectrum.
No doubt. How did you cultivate that perspective, and how did that serve you as you went on your journey through Kent State? Like, what was that like?
Oh, I learned a lot of hard lessons, like all the time. Dude, I got my head kicked in my first college match. I was going up against the number 4 guy in the country, and I was winning, and I got cocky, and then he pinned me while he was losing. Yeah, that was like a real first match of the season at home in front of a sold out crowd. Get just smacked, and that was one of those moments where I'm like, okay, something needs to happen, because I was starting to get like these feelings of back when I was in high school when I was getting my head kicked in, and I was like, I don't need that. Like I knew I had the ability, but like you had to learn, especially at Kent State. Being a college athlete is tough. Mm-hmm. Being a college wrestler is even tougher. You know, it's a different standard of like doing things. You're up at 4:30 in the morning, and you're running around the track, and it's dark outside, and the stadium lights aren't even on, but coach is there, and he knows you can see you. You know, like Like some real, like they're like real. Our coaches are so invested, and like getting us up and training our mental states, like getting us up early like that and making us drill for 2 hours in the morning before like the sun even come up. Like those are those hard moments and those hard lessons, and it made me appreciate the art of truly working hard. In high school, I'd set myself up to get to college. That was the start, and it was cool, like media attention, whatever. But once I actually got to college, man, I had a real big eye opener. Like all of a sudden, wasn't living at home anymore, and I was broke. You know what I mean? Like, and I'm thinking like, okay, what needs to happen so I can like still like keep myself floating. So in college, I got a job laying brick, and I went to class, and I went to practice twice a day, and I kind of got myself into a routine. And for a while, I just loved it, and I felt good about myself. And plus, I was like I was getting physically stronger from laying brick every day. And on top of that, I'm lifting in the weight room, and I'm wrestling my teammates and doing extra stuff outside of class too. So like it was just a different type of you hit a different level of just competition. Like when you hit that different level of being an athlete, this is what like you can tell who's gonna become a pro and who's like gonna fade. Because in like that college level is like that final that kind of final phase of like, all right, where are you gonna go from here? What do you want to do with your life from here? And so I really I didn't know this was gonna take me to be a pro fighter. I couldn't have guessed that 5-6 years ago while I was in college. Couldn't have, no way. But I'm here now because sometimes you need lessons like that, and those lessons can take years at a time. Sometimes you need lessons like that to propel yourself forward. So when it comes to rumble with the big dogs, you're ready.
Yeah, and I believe there's time needed to really truly develop the foundation of character that's needed to be successful. Like a lot of people may want their hand raised high on that mat, but they don't want the discomfort that comes with all the training that you had to do.
Yeah,
laying the brick and the mental toughness that's developed in that. Like you need those times, and you need to allow yourself to. It's like a seed being planted. The roots have to grow underground, where a lot of people won't be able to see it before it comes above ground. But a lot of people don't want that.
Yeah, because people are scared. A lot of people are scared of the unknown.
Ooh.
And wrestling is one of those things that you walk into a match, you could have trained something 100 times, and it gets shut down first try. Like that's how wrestling can work. And that level of uncertainty is the reason why wrestling isn't for everybody. Because wrestling is all about physically fighting the unknown. You don't not necessarily guessing, but more so reacting at very high paces, like the snap of a finger. Like somebody could be on their head, So it's different. It's a different level of awareness that you need to have, And I'm not saying that like just for pros. Like as I've seen kids with a type of awareness that I see in some professional athletes. There's some freak athletes out there, man. And like having that type of drive, like is good, like as an athlete, but like that's only gonna be like the first 30 years of your life, and then you got 60 more years to go.
Right.
So with that being said, but these things teach lessons. As a wrestler, man, I learned a lot from life. I learned how to shotgun a beer through wrestling. By the way, this we're talking college, but
right.
Like I've been like wrestling has put me in so many different like positions that I've learned a lot of stuff about life as well as the art that I practice.
One thing you didn't mention with being a college wrestler is cutting weight. I'm just curious, like that on top of being a college
I don't have to
student.
cut much weight.
You don't.
No.
But the process of that, or watching other teammates go through that, like
Oh,
what are the lessons there?
I mean, I support it. I'm the one that they would wrestle with to cut weight. I'd be like, all right, we're gonna go into a mat, and we're both gonna get fucking tired. So we would sit there like 2 homies, homies in a sweatsuit or just in hella sweats, hoodies, and we're just going crazy. And I'm like, every time that he'd be like, all right, try to take a breath, I get on his head again. And like, that's how we helped each other. And like, in turn, that was helping me get better because they're pushing the pace too, because we all have the same objective at this point in time, so we're all trying to get we're all trying to upgrade our skills, get better. You're trying to lose 8 pounds, which I want nothing to do with, so I'm glad I'm staying underweight. But at the same time, I'm going to help you get that because I want to see you there with me.
So you're at Kent State. At some point, you have a decision you come up with the decision that you want to leave.
Mm-hmm.
What came to that decision? What did it take to find the courage to do it? Having $50 in your pocket and actually making that big change. Tell us about that.
Man, it was extremely impulsive. I'm gonna just say that for sure. But there's a lot of good things happening in my life at that moment. And Kent State and NCAA, being under the NCAA and their rules, restricted me from having access, at least at the time, to a lot of things. And I felt like I was kind of being stuck, and like felt like I was kind of partially like owned by Kent State at that moment.
Yeah.
And I was out here in California for like a week. I went to the Ellen DeGeneres show, and then I stayed out here because like my boy, his name is Joey Davis. He wrestled for Notre Dame College in Ohio. He's a 4-time undefeated NCAA champ. Dude's nasty. But I was out here like training with him like every day for like 2 months, like out of the summer, and it was getting close to next year, and I was like, like that's when I made up the mind. I was like, I want a pro fight. I want to be a professional fighter because my boy's currently an undefeated welterweight in Bellator. So like, I was inspired by him and my whole team. That's what kind of really did it for me. My coach, his name is Antonio McKee, and he told me, he said, if you're willing to like work, if you're willing to give me all you got, you can stay in my gym. And like, this man is ruthless. I've watched him kick somebody out of the gym in the middle of a practice. So like, he's real serious about what he believes in. He's also one of the best coaches in the world when it comes to MMA, whether it's the UFC, Bellator, or any league that there is. You want that guy in your corner. So it really, like, I was a kid at the time, man. So I was just like, yeah, like I want to do this. And so over the last couple of years, I would be coming back and forth. I was broke. Like, started like figuring out like speeches. Had my boy Craig's help. He really started helping me like piece my stuff together, and we started working as a team. And my other guy Tony's help. We really just like, I started just like just like figuring out like what my purpose was. Because in college, I'm not gonna lie to you, I was training all the time, I was working all the time, and I was getting drunk on the weekends, and I was just kind of doing the same thing every weekend. And even though I'm a high level college athlete, I was bored. Like, I was seriously like sick and tired of the same thing. And on top of that, there was a lot of other issues with Kent State that I had. Nothing against the school, I love the school, but like, I just had my own personal issues that I couldn't overlook. So I had to make a decision. And I remember I was in California, and I told my mother that I am not going back to college, and I got cussed out on the phone. And rightly so, because I was almost done. And the more I look back at it, I talk to my mom about that decision I made. Like, every once in a while, she brings it up. And she's like, back then, she's like, I didn't want to speak to you. Because, like, my mom's a real one. She wants what's best for me and my sisters. And the fact that I was the first, like, Clark in the family to go to college and drop out and not complete it. Everybody in my family's gone to college. I'm the first one to drop out. But I felt like I definitely did things differently. And I think that's what was needed,
You're saying your mom. Obviously, it's not your birth mom. Is this your 8th foster care
mom?
No,
that's my mom. Like, we have the same last name. Like, that's my mother, Kimberly Clark Hawkins.
But this is one of the.
She adopted me. Like
Okay.
I'm part of like that's my family. That's
Beautiful.
my mother. Those are my sisters. Yeah.
Gotcha.
But yeah, you should have seen her face on FaceTime that day when I FaceTimed her, and I told her, I was like, Mom, I'm dropping out of college. Like, so imagine you're in like height of your college career, and like you just do that, and then you didn't tell your family yet that you made a decision. Then you tell them. Oh man, I was like, I thought I was about to get disowned from my family, honestly. But I was just like, yeah, you know, like, but at the end of the day, I was like, you know what, like F it, you know, like why, like go see what happens. Worst case scenario, I reapply back for the next term, next semester. You know, that's how I was thinking.
Right.
That was like 5 years ago. Look where I'm at. You know, it's not impossible.
I heard a pastor I like listening to recently. He said, fear has burglarized more destinies than taking a risk ever has.
Exactly.
And so,
You know, most people fear showing up, but like, you know, sometimes all you gotta do is just show up.
right.
You know.
Step out in faith. Step out
Yeah.
on yourself.
Yeah, for real. No, I was tweaking for a second. I was like sleeping on the homie's couch. I was sleeping on I was like just house hopping, trying to stay out in California as long as I could to set at least something up so I could keep coming back. And I did with the help of a lot of good people around, a lot of good people that I got the pleasure of knowing. I've had the pleasure of knowing.
When did you start seeing momentum? Was there like a shift? Was it a slow build?
I would say about like a lot of momentum in the last like 2 years. You know, COVID really completely squandered any plan that I had initially when it first started. You know, I was starting to really like get around the United States a few years ago, right before COVID. Like, I spoke out here in Vegas at the F45 World Convention. Like, I did a lot of cool shit. And like, it was really like the steam, like it was hot for a second. You know what I mean? And I was like, oh, we about to take this to the moon. And then, you know, COVID happened. And then within 48 hours, I had no source of income. You know, and I was just like screwed. So I went back to Ohio again. And then with the help of my boy Craig, we figured out a plan. We started doing stuff. And then over the span of COVID, we set up a lot of things that now with the world being pretty much open back up, we got a lot of stuff cooking on the stove.
You've been in a Netflix documentary, Emmy Award winning.
Yeah.
Tell us about that. How long ago did that come out?
Like 3.5-ish years ago now. It was just a 12-minute little short documentary about my life. You know, they filmed it right after I got done with high school. You know, I got to speak on some of the things I went through with my mom, my coaches, like my kind of more like my inner circle of people. And yeah, I did not expect it to be as big as it is. I'm gonna be real about that. I thought it was just a little rinky-dink project that, you know, was cool. Like, I was like a high schooler. Thought it was some rinky-dink project. I was more focused on getting to college, getting that call from Kent State. You know, like, that's what I was focused on. Every day I was sitting there just, like, chilling by the phone. I wouldn't leave my house, you know, just because I wanted to see what was going to happen. And then this thing happened, this Netflix stuff happens. And it wasn't even like Netflix. It was a producer from New York City that came out, hit me up on Facebook. And it was just a little 7-day project. And then just nothing. Went to college a year and a half later. My coach hated me for this. Pulled me out of a dual meet to fly me to Salt Lake City for the Sundance Film Festival, and won best short documentary there, and then proceeded to win best short documentary at every single film festival across the United States and in most other countries. And then Netflix got their hands on it, and so that was a cool little process. And the whole time I'm in college, so I really didn't know what was going on. I was just kind of, they tell me something, I'd be like, yeah, cool, you know. So like, just cool stuff, man. And you know, I didn't realize the effect it'd have on people, but
Right.
now that I'm older, I'm definitely like, man, like the things that people have said coming up to me, like, not to make myself feel better, but it feels good knowing that, like, you know, my actions, not even without even saying any words, just my actions on what I'm doing is like having an effect on people. It's crazy to think about to me sometimes.
You're really, yeah, it's crazy. I think the same thing with me. Like, when I came out and started sharing my story with like my addiction, what I went through. I had no idea that I was giving people permission to pursue their path to greatness, no matter what was holding them back at the time or what kind of adversity they were facing. Like, and I didn't realize that I had that kind of power. I didn't realize that I had that type of impact on the people in the world around me. But I mean, that's how I really believe in God, is because like with all my best effort, it's like, but with His help, as soon as the door was open, like look at what my life has become now. Like through the pit of my life, through what was the worst thing that could possibly ever happen to me, is now the reason why people have hope. And it's just like,
exactly. That's that. I could repeat that right back to you. I mess with you. You're legit.
Well, I think it's like Darren and I's coming from the world of addiction. It was self-inflicted. I mean, we could blame it on whatever, but it's really like, I know we've talked about this. Our lives really started to shift when we took ownership of it and just own it. Took personal responsibility to just like own our past. But yours wasn't necessarily self-inflicted. But the bottom line is, we're three of us sitting up here, three men that are just really, we don't know the impact that we're actually having. And because of technology and podcasts, like we don't know who we're reaching. It does feel good to get those messages. It's not validation. It's just reaffirming. And it's just, we're just inspiring people. So it's not an ego thing.
Yeah, like don't tell me that you're not gonna smile when somebody tells you that you've helped them get up off their feet. You know what I mean? Like naturally. Yeah, if you don't feel good that you did something positive, why are you doing it? You know, it's obviously not positive if you don't feel good about it. You know, but like it's at some level, even if it's something that makes you wildly uncomfortable to share, at some level, you're doing it for a reason. And you're doing it not to make yourself feel good, but to raise somebody else's morale and raise their spirits so they can get motivated and get up off their feet and do some amazing shit.
So then you decide you want to be a pro fighter.
Yeah.
You just recently, was it fairly recently, had your first pro
Yeah,
fight?
that was like December 17th. Won by unanimous decision. 30-27 decision.
Is that something that you're continuing to do, or was that? Yeah.
Oh yeah. I was just on the phone with my coach the other day. Yesterday actually. Looking at other options. And old boy that I beat wants to fight me again, so maybe I'll like knock his ass out this time if he wants to do like a trilogy or something. So.
His ego might be hurting just a little bit.
Oh, it definitely is. It's gonna hurt even worse if we do this again.
What are some of the practices like to keep your mindset strong? What we talk about rituals and practices, morning routines. Like, what is your? I feel like you got a pretty disciplined, dialed in system. What does that look like?
I mean, I don't necessarily meditate. You know, fighting and stuff is my meditation. I can put all my energy into all this negative energy into learning how to sharpen my skills, and like I feel good about myself, and I feel like I make more clear-headed decisions to move forward, you know. But like on the other hand, like I don't know, I like microdosing shrooms too. Like the microdoses help me like clear my head.
Same.
It's like I'm meditating, but like actively moving, but like with a calmness, with no like hallucinations.
No doubt. I mean, your life can be a meditation as long as you're present to the moment and fully immersed in whatever it is you're doing, wrestling, walking, hiking, like no matter what
like
it is.
it's like more conscious. Like I like doing the microdosing when I'm really trying to like think on certain aspects, you know, because like the microdoses with health, like the health practices, it helps with like PTSD, it helps with anxiety, it helps you like really on the most healthiest natural sense stay like calm, you know. And I'd like to see it more in more places, because with me using it, I've seen a lot of change in how I think. Just kind of like, you know, it's like there's different forms, like some like higher form of meditation you can get from like different practices, you know. Like for instance, I'm definitely wanting to do a ayahuasca and really like search my like mind's eye to figure out what I truly want to do, you know. Like I would love to have some clearness like that.
Glad you're talking about this because we've both talked about it and have even in our sobriety, I call it a sobriety 2.0. 9 years sober, did my first mushroom journey, a big hero's journey. But before I did it, my teacher and friend now, Christy, shout out Christy. She's been such a tremendous impact on my life, had me microdose before I did the big journey. And so this is the first thing I put in my system after 9 years, the microdose. And I was like, oh my God, this is what every antidepressant should be.
Yeah, but these antidepressants make you feel like crap.
Exactly.
And I don't know why people sell them.
Exactly.
When there's natural things that come out the ground that could be perfectly suitable.
That was that moment I had. I was just like a little bit happier, a little bit more clarity, walking on the beach, and I'm like, oh my God, and it's a plant.
Exactly.
You know, a very, very intelligent plant.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's how I get my mind straight. I either fight or I do that. And it's like it keeps me I feel like real solid. Like you see me do more of my when you see me do something really dope, it's because I was probably really focused and felt really clear. When I'm not clear, you don't see me do a lot of stuff. You know, and then that's when I need to find figure out for myself I need to tune back in. I need to make sure I need to keep on what I was doing because you don't want to let anything die out. So you gotta sometimes anchor yourself back, and keep yourself in place.
Big facts. I love the title. Work with what you got.
Yeah.
What how has that become a sort of a mantra for you and people that you've helped? Because I feel like that's such a good perspective to have, no matter where you're at in a particular journey.
Yeah. So work with what you got. Think of it like this: the world's always going to be a shitty place. Don't be a shitty person. Work with what you got. Take everything that you have in front of you. If it's crap, turn it into something good. You know what I mean? You have the power to change that. You know what I mean? So you work with the things around you, and you don't live by the way of the world. You live by the way of yourself.
When you say that, I hear acceptance. Right?
Yeah.
We talk about it in recovery. Acceptance is the answer to all of our problems. It's accepting. It doesn't mean you have to like it or think it's fair, but you do have to accept it because it's happened, right? And that acceptance, there's a whole lot of freedom there. And just being able to, and then as we gain more tools and stay in this work, the work and the impact, it raises even more because you have more tools. To much that's given comes great responsibility. So to work with what you got, like tools that we had 10 years ago was like nothing compared to what we have now.
Oh yeah.
So it's a constant accountability action of leveling up your game. Like we have more access. The people that we get to have conversations with make us better people and create more awareness. So it's just continuously leveling up.
Absolutely. That's what it is. My book, it shows the journey of me leveling up from the crappiest situations as I've progressively got older, as I've leveled up all these different things in my life. It's made it so you can see it, and that's exactly what the book tells the story. If you close your eyes and have someone read the book to you, you can it's going to be in a way that you can visualize what is happening in those moments, so you can see the amount of growth, the amount of suffering, the amount of adversity. You know what I mean? And I'm just working with the tools that are laid out in front of me, and just navigating life and navigating people, navigating different situations, and trying to just survive. Hence, work with what you got.
Hey, my boy, it looks to me like you're doing a lot more than just surviving.
Yeah, I'm thriving. I feel like I'm thriving now for sure. That's all we all want to do is thrive.
Straight up.
I think working with what you got, also just staying on that, it's like it's the action step, right? It's the tools. You have to work with the tools that you have, but the tools only work if you use them.
Yeah.
And the more that you use them, the more that you're sharpening your tools, right? Or you gain more tools in your toolbox. But what would you say to somebody out there that maybe knows they're struggling? They might be making a lot of excuses. I always like to say when you stop making excuses, you start making changes. But maybe they're just stuck. They're stuck in the story, in the bullshit. What would you say to that person?
I would say, it's not as bad as you think. look at what you keep getting stuck on and like meditate on it. You know what I mean? Like for real. I used to have like this mental block in wrestling, and I was stuck. Like I lost over 200 times. Like talk about being stuck. That's 8 years of being stuck, losing. And you gotta just learn, like you gotta like calm down, sit back, analyze the situation, look at what exactly your problem is. Don't look at what the overall problem is. Look at the exact moment that the problem occurs. What is going on? What's your mental state like? What's physically happening? You know what I mean? Like change the way that you process the situation, you might come out with a different outcome. But the key fact to that is to stay calm. Because the more stress you have in your brain, the more of a block you're gonna get.
Yes, it's such about embracing the difficulty, which is, you know, in our human nature, it's not something that we want to do. We don't want to sit with what's that fear. We don't want to sit with that insecurity. We don't want to sit with that mistake that we continue to keep making, because we feel like if we sit with it long enough, it means that it means that we're a failure, as opposed to failure being an event, not a person.
Yeah,
you know
and I need people to understand that more, because I don't get it. Like failing it happens. Like I fail. I fail at shit even now. It's like I'm not perfect. You know, so it's not failure when someone's like, I'm a failure. I was like, no, you just failed. You might have failed the task, but you yourself, you're not a failure. If you were a real failure, that means that you could never complete that task, even if you tried. But just because you failed doesn't mean that you can't try again and again and again and again.
It's all about growth, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what I don't even really like using that word failure, because I don't even think it is. It's not even a thing unless we identify it, right? Because if we're learning and growing from the failure, then it's not failure, it's growth.
Yeah.
It's learning, and that's what we're here to do, learn and grow every day. That's that whole idea of a growth mindset. But it's when we judge ourselves or identify ourselves or attach to an outcome because we failed at something, we're a failure. That's just a BS story.
Exactly, and that's what people need to get on that. People definitely need to start thinking that. And a lot of people also need to start thinking about when they, like, say they have a job, or say that, like, you're stuck and you have to go do the same thing every day. Don't be like, I have to go to work. I get to go to work. I get to go train. I hate training, but I get to go train. You know what I mean? Like, just verbally saying that could potentially alter your mindset to how you think about it. Like in the most literal sense, speaking it into existence.
Donnie, what's the stats on when you speak something out loud?
Oh, yeah. So when you say something out loud, it's 10 times more powerful than if you just think it. And if you say something negative out loud, it's another 7 times more powerful. So saying negative things out loud are 17 times more powerful than
But what if I
just
was
thinking.
so I was on TMZ and they asked me, how do you feel about Eugene Murray? So this is like negative but positive for me. So I'm gonna rip his throat out. And then I won.
That's not negative. I'm thinking more negative thinking,
More
toward
negative.
judgment towards
More
yourself.
towards
You're
yourself.
just being
Okay.
real. You're manifesting something.
Okay.
That's a belief system. The negative is like the beating up ourselves, basically.
Yeah, no, I don't like that. You know, and like here's the thing. It's okay to beat yourself up over something. You know, I do it, but here's the thing. At the same time, you can don't necessarily beat yourself up more than you can critique your own performance and then get up and move on. You know, like it's as simple as that, but it's harder done than said.
Right. There's a conviction of knowing, like, I know I
Like,
can
you gotta
do better.
believe- you gotta
I
believe
know
it.
there's a higher level in me, and that conviction is what's going to allow me to get there. So I have to feel something to want to propel me to that other level, because if I don't, I'm just going to stay in that. I'm going to stay right where I'm at, which is where I do not want to be.
Yeah.
Well,
Oh,
it sounds
yeah.
more like accountability, just keeping yourself accountable.
Oh
It's just,
yeah,
is that
that's why I have no excuses on my back, because that's what it is. Hold myself accountable. If I did something bad, hell yeah, I did that shit. So I'm sorry, but like if I did something good, hell yeah, I did that shit. You're welcome. You know what I mean? Like I
Right.
just keep yourself accountable for your actions. Even like try to make good actions, but like keep yourself accountable. Keep yourself accountable at all times. And keep the others around you accountable too. That's how you build a strong system. And better hope that those same people keep you accountable.
I love that, because the more layers of accountability you have, the more likely you are to
Succeed.
follow through and
Yeah.
succeed on it. And then I believe accountability is the most radical act of self-love. Keeping the promises you make to yourself. Just do the things you say you're going to do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
There's so many times that you hear someone say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to be a champ at this or something, and you don't see it happen, and they just disappear and they fall off. It's like you just said, where's that conviction?
Well, shit, my man, you had who knows how many opportunities to make an excuse along the way in your journey, and you didn't. And we want to thank you for continuing to make that decision to rise above. And I'm sure there's millions of people out there that have been touched by you and that feel the same way, bro. So we appreciate you making time for the show, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys having me on here. It's been fun. I love this setup, honestly. It's really cool.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thank you so much for showing up, shining your light, and really being an inspiration for others. I know I'm inspired and
Straight up.
Absolutely.
ready to go crush it. So thanks again, brother.
Absolutely, man. You're awesome.
All right, we're out.